Hello and welcome to an exciting and life-altering episode of the Immigrant Magazine Weekly. I'm Pamela Anchang. Have you ever wondered about what it takes to become wealthy? And also, what is wealth? What does it mean to you? What if there was a book or a manual out there that could show you just how to accomplish this dream? You're in luck because The Wealth Cure, Putting Money in Its Place, is a book by award-winning actor, best-selling author, humanitarian, entrepreneur, health and wellness ambassador, Hill Harper. Harper's book is a masterclass on the quest of wealth and happiness. And I'm thrilled to have him on the show today to teach us some valuable lessons. Before I bring him on, please do me the honors of subscribing if you haven't yet by clicking on the subscribe button here below, and also liking us so that you too will share our videos. Not forgetting to ring the notification bell so that you will be notified when we bring you such amazing content. Of course, follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Pam and Chang, and like us on Facebook at The Immigrant Magazine. A dreaded cancer diagnosis and a train ride from Los Angeles to Chicago is the starting point of uncovering the true meaning of wealth for actor Hill Harper. He's on a mission, he says, to redefine the concept of wealth and the role money plays in this equation. Please join me alongside Mr. Harper on this exciting ride that will certainly change your life for the better. So thank you so much for this interview, Mr. Harper. I just want to get to it because there's so much to talk about. This book, it's an amazing book. I read it and I started, you sent it to someone and I picked it up. I was like, oh, this is just another boring financial book. I'm not interested. I started reading it and I couldn't put it down, you know? So we're going to talk about it. But first things first, I want to know that I'm a fan. I've watched so many movies, How It Really Happened, The Good Doctor. I love it. What piqued your interest to be an actor, to become an actor in the first place? Because you're just so talented in so many ways.
Well, thank you so much. When I went to college, I went to Brown University for undergraduate school. And it just so happened there was a class that was available called Voice for the Actor Shakespeare. It was a Shakespeare class. And I took the class and I just fell in love. I fell in love with the art of acting. I've always wanted to do things that had positive impact for us, for our culture. And I just felt that acting, I looked up to people like Sidney Poitier and Harry Belafonte and Ozzie Davis and Denzel Washington. And I felt that as a Black man, I could represent the best of us and characters I could play. And I just really enjoyed it. So I followed my heart. But certainly there were other things that I wanted to do that I think are important, obviously you mentioned the book, The Wealth Cure. Writing this book, the idea was, how do we cure the wealth gap? The other books that I've written, as well as characters that I play, hopefully people see that I'm attempting to represent the best of us and uplift our community and uplift us together. So that's what it is. And I still love acting. Although I do other things, I still love acting.
Yes, that's just amazing. So the way you write the book, you presented every scenario in such a practical manner. And you tell your story. It's about love, it's about money, it's about friendships, business, entertainment. Why did you choose this approach? Most books that I come across that are financial don't pique my interest. But this one, I loved it. I was looking forward to everything, even the love story in there. So why did you pick this approach?
Well, that's the key to me. If you want to actually talk about things that traditionally people have trouble talking about, money is one of the things we never talk about. Why? Because there's a lot of anxiety around it. And so people are just like, don't even talk to me. No one wants to talk about budgeting. They don't want to talk about their debt. They don't want to talk about their credit rating. Money is a very sensitive topic. There was an article that came out recently that said people would more quickly talk about their infidelity than they talk about their credit score. Wow. And so we keep it very close to that. So I knew I wanted to actually embed it with story, talk about it through a story standpoint, not just nuts and bolts, check the boxes, money book. And so, because ultimately money is just a tool for us to use to live a full life. Absolutely. And so if you don't talk about it from the standpoint of how you're living your life, What's the number one thing that couples argue about? Money. What's the number one thing that ends people up? We've been talking about mass incarceration and criminal justice reform and policing, right? What's the number one thing that people do to get into the system? It's usually money related. So money touches every aspect of our life. It touches our family. It touches our kids. It touches our social justice. It touches our health. You cannot have social justice without economic justice. And that's why doing this book was so important. And that's why launching the Black Wall Street digital wallet is so important.
That is really critical. That's so funny you talked about the credit score. Now, don't come for me now because I've had issues. But
we all have.
But I remember in the book, it's a passage in the book where you talk about watching ESPN, and it's kind of like watching CNBC because it's all about the money, the money, the money. So what's the difference in your opinion? Well, it's in the book, but I want you to tell our audience between wealth and money.
Okay. So wealth, or our wealth factors, are very individual. Okay. My wealth factor, I realized certainly with a cancer diagnosis, is that my health is my wealth. You know, Steve Jobs said very famously that he'd give away Apple, Pixar, the iPhone, everything he's ever invented just to see his daughter graduate high school. So his health was his wealth, actual wealth. And we all have these wealth factors where money is just a tool to help you live a wealthy life. It's just one aspect. And depending on your relationship to that tool and how you use that tool will determine how wealthy your life is. For instance, the most valuable thing we all have, it's more valuable than Bitcoin, it's more valuable than diamonds, it's more valuable than cash, is time. If you don't have time, it doesn't matter how much Bitcoin, cash, or anything else you have, because time is our most valuable asset. How do you spend your time? Do you spend your time chasing money, or do you spend your time loving loved ones, having laughs with friends and family, doing interesting interviews and discussions with people? Time and how we use it is influenced by how we use the tool of money in our life. And so we have to understand how all of these things are related. One point I really want to make is, in certain aspects, the way you use a tool can be very helpful. Let's take a hammer. I use this hammer example all the time. If I have to pound a nail, using a hammer is much more efficient than trying to use my hand where it'll create a hole, or trying to use something else that'll break. It's very quick and efficient. But what if I have to clean my hardwood floors? Would using the tool of a hammer help me, or would it actually do more damage? It would scratch up the floors. And so just think about money the same way. Using money correctly in your life can buy you more time, can buy you more wealth, and have a wealthy life. But using money incorrectly can actually hurt you. You run up a lot of credit card debt. You end up paying all this money in minimum fees and all of this, and you hurt your credit rating, and everything starts costing you more. You can't buy a home in a good neighborhood. All of these different things. The way you use the tool of money can either help you or hurt you. That's why I talk about the difference between smart money and dumb money.
Exactly. And we're going to get to some of that, because now you break down the book, because that was kind of like in the prologue, what I was referring to. But then you go now to break down the book from a diagnosis, like a storyboard it, like someone's life, like a diagnosis, treatment options, and compliance, and all of these elements that just flows and makes it so easy to understand. So why did you present it in the format of like a cure? Like there's a sickness and then there's the cure.
Because it truly is. We do have a sickness with regards to money in our community, and not all of it is our fault. I want to be very clear. You know, there's a saying, it's expensive to be poor. And what I mean by that is there's so many systemic and institutional barriers to wealth building in our community. You know, what's crazy is people in many marginalized communities pay more for a bad quart of milk than you do at Whole Foods in a wealthy community for an organic quart. And people say, well, poor people can't afford Whole Foods. They're paying more at the bodega on the corner. Why? Because many of these places are food deserts, so there's a monopoly. We have to understand there are systemic and institutional impediments to wealth building, but technology offers us an opportunity to solve them. And if we use technology and we use the choices we have, we actually can solve and cure the wealth gap.
So let's start with the diagnosis. First, you start with your diagnosis. I like how you describe waking up in the morning and the swollen throat and what led to it. And so there's the diagnosis and then there's the cure. I like that. So in your case, you had the physical ailment, but before then you started writing this book. And so everything just culminated into this whole storyline, which I really love the way you wove it in. So you have this diagnosis and it creates fear. What I learned from that, the cure was you talk about us self-sabotaging. Does that tie in somewhere? I want you to relate your life story to the cure that came out of it and how it affects us in our finances.
Yes. So we oftentimes, and this book came out 10 years ago, and this quote has gotten much more popular since, where we say that we buy a lot of things to impress a bunch of people that we don't even like, right?
I don't even care.
Oftentimes we're trying to fill holes with what we purchase and how we use our money. In the Black community in America, and if we start even thinking worldwide, to the African community, to Africa, different countries in Africa, to the 66 million Black and brown people in Brazil, and all of these other places, we oftentimes are attempting to fill holes with our purchasing. Black America has $1.2 trillion of spending power, yet we don't use it intentionally, and we don't recirculate the dollars amongst ourselves to build wealth, create jobs. That's my argument, is the idea of having a treatment plan so you're not trying to fill a hole by purchasing things. Recently, I don't know if you heard about this, but recently when the stimulus checks came out, there was a line down the block at Louis Vuitton. And most of the people in that line look like us.
Right.
What does that tell you? We don't own Louis. Mm-hmm. We don't own the company. In fact, that company doesn't necessarily even hire people who look like us. So what is it about us that feels we need to overspend on that product? I would rather than someone buying a $1,500 bag, take $1,500 and buy Bitcoin on the Black Wall Street digital wallet. So that 1,500 can turn into 3,000, can turn into 6,000, can turn into 12,000. And all of a sudden they can pay for their child's education. Whereas with a Louis bag that gets old, it's just sitting there in their closet. And we have to really unpack why we feel the need to do that. We do it with cars, we do it with sneakers, we do it with bags, we do it with watches and jewelry. Rather than investing in ourselves, we invest in other people's businesses. And I want to change that mindset. And part of that is making people understand that you're already magnificent, that you're already beautiful, that you're already creative. Folks come to us looking for ideas and creativity, and we build up their brands. We need to leverage our own culture for our own success. And that's why I launched my own tech company.
Exactly. So now you talk about, does that tie in with the idea we talk about the great lie of scarcity?
Yes. Well, when the idea of, there's two things I want to talk about.
Please.
When we talk about scarcity, I don't want to confuse people. One of the reasons that Bitcoin is actually valuable is because it is technically scarce. What do I mean by that? The way the code or the blockchain is written, there's only 21 million Bitcoin that will ever be mined.
Right.
That means think about it, the reason why in many cases real estate is an ascending value asset class is because they're not making any more land, right? Yes. And that's the same thing. They're not making any more Bitcoin. So scarcity, there is a value if things are truly scarce. Mm-hmm. But if they're not truly scarce, there isn't. What do I mean by that? Well, Louis Vuitton can make as many handbags as they want. The American government can print as many dollars as they want. In fact, 22% of the whole circulating supply of American dollars were printed last year during the pandemic. That should tell you something. It should tell you that over time, your purchasing power of that dollar is going to decrease. That's why getting out of that asset class is important, and investing it into ascending value assets is critical.
Absolutely. So then, I mean, I love when you talk about, am I using money or is money using me?
Yes, exactly. So that's a question I want everyone to ask themselves. Am I using money or is money using me? We get used by money all the time because, again, people are in our ear. We see advertisements. We feel like we're less than if we don't have this or if we don't have that. That's one of the biggest things that have hurt us when we think about technology, is that we see all these images of people on Instagram on these fancy vacations, and we start to look at ourselves or we look at our partner and say, how come we haven't gone to Cancun and stayed in a suite? We don't realize that people are just showing us their highlight reel. Sure, if I showed you my highlight reel, you'd be like, wow, but that's not my real life. My real life is picking up my son and him yelling at me, and then me taking him to school in the morning, and making his breakfast. They're changing his diaper when he was younger. That's not what was posted. So we're all seeing fake lives, and then we allow our money to use us, saying, hey, we should do that. And we end up spending money on things that we don't need, where the intrinsic happiness is in truly saving and growing wealth such that you aren't stressed or worried about it. Because what's the number one thing that's killing people in the Black community? High blood pressure and heart disease. What causes high blood pressure and heart disease? Stress. What tends to cause the most stress? People worrying about money. It's all related. And that's how money ends up using us.
Wow. That is amazing, because there's the sickness right there. Like, there's so much symmetry in that. So let's talk about the treatment options. You talk about wealth factors, and creating a blueprint.
Yes.
How do we do these things?
So having a plan is critical. You would never hire an architect to build your house if they just said, hey, I got you. I got it right here. Most people say that. If I ask people, what is your plan that you have? I say, where do you keep it? They're like, I got it right here. No. Sketching out a blueprint or a plan is critical. Why? Because you're going to modify it over time anyway, but you need to really see how the steps link together, because everything is incremental. You don't build a house starting with the roof. You start on the ground. You build the foundation first. There's a process to building wealth. There's a process to building a happy, successful life. And looking at your wealth factors, Pamela, your wealth factors are different than mine, that are different than someone else that is watching. And they shouldn't be the same. We have different goals, priorities, desires, wants, needs, and that's okay. But we all should have a plan or a blueprint that is our own to get there. And that's why I really emphasize that idea of creating a blueprint or a plan.
Yes. You just say in one, I don't know what page that was, you said true wealth is having our balanced and our life balanced and organized, so we are free to pursue any dream or happiness.
Exactly. And that goes back to the point we made about time. Okay. True wealth to me is ultimately having options. Money buys options. So the more money you have, the more options you have. It doesn't guarantee happiness, because you may choose things that don't make you happy. There's a lot of rich people we know that are unhappy. So money doesn't guarantee happiness. Money just buys you options. You have more options of choice. Choice can be very valuable. And that's why it's important to understand having money does help us as a tool to have more choice, but it's still up to us to make choices that reinforce our wealth factors, understanding who we are and what makes us happy.
That's amazing. So then we talk about having a North Star. What is that? The
North Star is ultimately that goal or place where we want to end up. It's important to know where you're headed, because it's a journey. And so the North Star is that beacon of light that gives you a direction. Many of us, if we get off kilter because we say, oh, this is interesting over here. No, I'm going to go over here. No, this is a new opportunity. But having that North Star, fundamentally speaking, my North Star is I want to have positive impact and legacy on the world. Also, I want to be a great father, and I want to help others manifest their destiny. If I always know that that's my North Star, then I can filter almost every decision through that web if it takes away all my confusion,
right,
and uncertainty. Because if I know what my North Star is, then every decision I make, if being pulled this direction doesn't fit that, then I don't do it.
that's amazing. So those were our treatment options. So let's talk about compliance and sticking with it. So we have all these ideas, we have a plan. How do we execute and how do we stick with it? You relate it to dieting.
Yes, sticking with it, having a plan and all that is sticking with it is one of the hardest things, because there are going to be obstacles. And if we can just reframe our mindset to think of a different O word besides, every time I think of obstacles, I think of opportunity. What is this new opportunity that I'm being offered through this obstacle? And so that's a key type of mindset shift, that if we could think of any obstacle as opportunity, it helps us stay on our path because we lean in more. It's easy to fall off. And if you do, that's okay. You dust yourself off. It's like a Leah song, dust yourself off and try again. Get back up and get back onto your plan. There's always going to be times when we fall away and fall off, but sticking with it is critical.
And in this same chapter, you talk about the smart money versus the dumb money. Please tell us the difference. Because
yes, very quickly, smart money versus dumb money is when your head hits the pillow at night, whatever you spent your money on that day, whatever you used your tool of money for that day, by the time you wake up in the morning, and this is over time because there always are going to be volatility, but by the time you wake up in the morning, is what you spend it on worth more or less? And so dumb money is credit card debt and paying high interest loans. Dumb money is buying expensive things that depreciate in value extremely quickly. We're still buying them with credit. So really expensive sneakers or cars or brand new cars and things like that. Smart money is putting your money away in ascending value assets like Bitcoin on the Black Wall Street wallet, or just saving money, period. Putting that away because it's important that you build a foundation of savings and wealth creation, putting money in equities or mutual funds, all of these things, putting money into real estate or other investment classes. These are all ascending value asset classes that over time, every night you go to sleep, that they're actually increasing in value, not rapidly decreasing in value.
You know, I think I'm working on some smart money because I recently purchased myself some Odua coin. I don't know if you've heard about Odua coin.
I love Odua coin. Yes, Odua coin is great. And here's the deal. We have to educate ourselves about different cryptocurrencies. And certainly Odua coin is a crypto that folks need to educate themselves about. They need to understand its fundamentals and proceed accordingly. I always recommend you first begin to build a foundation in Bitcoin, because that is half of the market cap of crypto is one coin, and that is Bitcoin. And so you want to be into the largest coin because your downside risk is significantly less than other alternative coins. However, you should still learn about Odua coin, research it, and decide how you want to participate in it, because supporting Odua coin is supporting your community.
Absolutely. And that's so funny. You talked about, this dumb money. Well, in your book, one of your friends says is the cost of doing business. So what if I buy that Louis Vuitton because I want to go to a meeting in Beverly Hills and I want to look the part? How about we talk about faking it till we make it? Is that fake?
Listen, I encourage people to find out what makes them truly happy. And I never begrudge people for buying nice things, but I always just say this. It's about knowing the difference between a need versus a want, and then always taking care of your needs first. That's the key. And if you do that, if you want that Louis bag, that's okay. If you've already taken care of the needs first, because just understand the Louis bag is a want, not a need. But if you start making things that are wants, needs, that's when you get into trouble.
Yeah. What about like in part 4 of the book? It's more about maintaining your health and your wealth, and you talk a lot about it. How can we balance this, health and wealth?
Well, having a good relationship with money saves you time and gives you time to be able to spend time doing other things. If you're always having to work and chase money, then you don't have time to exercise. You don't have time to take those walks or work out or take that class, that yoga, Pilates, that weightlifting class. And so that's why health and wealth are inextricably linked. And so I just recommend that people take their time to meditate every day, to pray, to take care of their mental health as well as their physical health. And know that chasing money and spending time earning money is not the key and not necessarily good for your mental health or your physical health.
There's so much to unpack in this book. I mean, we couldn't even do it in an hour if we wanted to. This will have to be a class, and you have to come back, and we have to go chapter by chapter and break it down. I hope we can do that. But before I let you go, because I know how busy you are, I want us to also talk about, in your conclusion, you talk about the life account versus the bank account. Can you just sum that up?
Sure.
Talks about money plus wealth.
Absolutely. Your life account are all the things that I'd say add commas to your life.
Right.
Like I'm a father, comma, an actor, comma, an entrepreneur, comma. I'm someone who's a seeker, a believer, a doer, all of those things. And then I have commas that are in my bank account, which are strictly related to money. And certainly we want more commas in both areas. You want more commas in your life account. You want more commas in your bank account. And so those things are linked, and we can do that together. That's why I launched the Black Wall Street digital wallet. And I hope that everybody who's listening will go to theblackwallstreet.com. I hope they'll put their email address in, because I actually want to gift you Satoshis. I want to onboard it, and hope is there'll be someday that a Dua coin will be available on the Black Wall Street. That would be fantastic. And hopefully we'll be able to make that happen.
Yeah. Some of us don't even understand how Wall Street works. When you talk about it in your book, so what's the Black Wall Street about?
Black Wall Street is an homage to the original Black Wall Street. It was in Tulsa, Oklahoma, in the Greenwood district, where a man by the name of O.W. Gurley founded an area called Greenwood. It was 35 blocks of Black home ownership, Black business ownership, and 5 Black-owned hotels, 6 Black insurance companies, Black lawyers, doctors, barbers, beauty salons, and the money exchange within that ecosystem stayed in it over a year. Right now, a dollar leaves the Black community within 6 to 7 hours. And if we don't start owning our own digital wallets, it'll be leaving within 6 to 7 seconds. So this is a critical time for us to own our own digital wallets and look into cryptocurrency, owning our own currencies, and supporting each other by the group or network wealth effect that happens by the circulation of money and capital. That's what we're creating on the Black Wall Street platform. And that's why we hope everybody will join us at theblackwallstreet.com.
You bet they would, because I'm going to make sure that they get to know about it. Thank you so much, Hill. It's been such a conversation. I hope we can continue sometime, when you have more time. So
absolutely, we will continue. We'll do a part 2 for sure.
Absolutely. Before you go though, the hat on the Good Doctor, Dr. Marcus, that's the role you play. What's the significance of that hat?
The significance of that hat is looking back to the homeland, Mother Africa, and wearing fabrics that represent different communities in Africa and beyond. And so I'm so proud that on one of the top TV shows in the world, I'm able to represent my connection to the African continent as a Black American and remind us how connected we all are. And so I hope that we can have African Americans work with Africans, and we need to leverage each other more, work together more. And hopefully we can do that on the Black Wall Street platform.
We certainly will. And you're doing that just here, because I'm from Cameroon, you're African American, you're my brother, I'm your sister, and we're together, and we will support you.
Absolutely. Thank you. God bless.
You too. Bye-bye. Thank you, Hill Harper, for this amazing hour of empowerment. And to you, my audience, please do yourselves a favor. Go out there and pick up this book or get it on Amazon. It is The Wealth Cure, putting money in its place where it belongs. See you next time on Team TV. We've come to the end of our show. Thank you so very much for joining me today. I would love to hear what you think about our discussion. So please share your thoughts in our comment section or send me an email to publisher@immigrantmagazine.com. Now be sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram @Anchang and like us on Facebook, The Immigrant Magazine. See you next time on The Immigrant Magazine Weekly.